is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Catechris Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.catechris.com. And our special guest tonight is lead singer Mick Scott from the band Villains In Vogue. How are you doing tonight, Mick?
I'm doing great, Jason. How are you doing?
Well, welcome to the show. It's this first time.
It's Villains In Vogue, by the way.
What's that? Villains In Vogue?
It's Villains In Vogue.
Oh, okay. Thanks for correcting me. Now, this, of course, this is obviously the first time I'm interviewing you, and
right.
Initially I contacted you, Mick, because I seen you played the Ultimate Jam night last week. They had kind of a Motley Crue theme going in conjunction with the Dirt.
Right.
You guys were playing songs from the Dirt soundtrack. So, first of all, I'd like to ask you, how did you get involved or invited to take part in that event?
I've been part of the Ultimate Jam for probably a year and a half. I guess that you'd be considered pretty close to a regular there. I keep knocking on the door, so they keep letting me in. And Chuck Wright, who's the bass player from
Quiet Riot.
Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
He actually wrote me. He said, we're doing this. Would you want to do Helter Skelter with me? Which any time I can play with Chuck Wright, obviously would love to do it. So I said absolutely. And so I did that song and did Smoking in the Boys' Room with him, and it was a real fun night. Playing with those guys. I'm actually playing next week. We're doing a Jam of Thrones. It's a night, circulated around the Game of Thrones HBO show, but it's all about kings and queens and dragons.
Oh. Wow! I see now.
It's going to be really cool.
That gets kind of creative there. And now I've seen where a couple months back you'd taken part in another jam they had, like for Cheap Trick. Now that's pretty cool. Like I said, me myself, I really haven't heard anything about you, Mick, until I saw the Facebook ad about the Ultimate Jam night last week. Now,
right.
So did Chuck kind of just like me kind of discover you on Facebook, or did you approach him originally? I'm not about the Motley Crue night, but when you first started.
Originally, my band, I had a band, I guess 2 years ago, called 7 Reasons Why, and we were lucky enough they asked us to open up one of the jam nights.
Oh, cool.
And we did, and after that band disbanded, and Paulie Z, who runs it with Chuck, he had gotten in touch with me and said, we want to have you come back. It was they were doing one of those it was like glam night, I believe it was.
Wow!
And it was really, really cool, and they asked me to be part of it, and I did. And after that, it just kind of snowballed. They wanted to. I think my favorite one we did was last Halloween. We did a Rocky Horror Picture Show, and if you people who have never seen Paulie Z do Frankenfurter, he does it amazing. First of all, Paulie has such an amazing spectrum of talent with his voice. He can do anything from opera to Tim Curry. I mean, nails it. It's staggering. So, but they asked me to do what they call Lips, which is the opening song.
Wow!
Science fiction double feature, and I get to do the reprise at the end.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was so cool because, oh my God, the singers and the players that night, and they pull this thing off so seamlessly because there's horn players that leave the stage and violinists come through, and you don't even see them because it's front lit, but you don't see anything. You don't see the players moving from the back, and we just come in and do this stuff, and they're basically acting out that part, the music part of the movie. So it takes you from the beginning of the movie to the end of it, and it was very impressive.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool event because it's something that takes place every single week. And while like doing like a Cheap Trick jam, get up there and doing some Cheap Trick songs or even some Motley Crue songs, that might be like a fun thing and something that that's real easy for you to do. But then kind of doing like a Rocky Horror theme type evening, for a lot of you guys, that's not the type of music you would typically play. So again,
oh no, that's you're absolutely right, and it takes you out of your comfort zone, and you have to remember, the key word there is jam, and it is these players are monster players. I mean, I've stood on that stage with these guys and go, what the fuck am I doing here?
But you know, that's a cool thing I like about the Ultimate Jam Night is the fact that you got a lot of these well-known guys like Chuck Wright, like you mentioned, who started the whole thing, and they got guys like Matt Starr and all these people that a lot of people have heard of that go down there and take part in the event. But I also enjoy the fact that they allowed they give opportunity to like up and coming musicians such as yourself, because again, what a great opportunity for a guy like you that's trying to get people to know more about you and your band, and it's just
really
such a great opportunity.
I always thank them so much for the opportunity, because it is. I mean, first of all, you've got to be on your mettle too. There's a lot of people want to do that jam, and it'd be cool if everybody could do it, but the biggest thing is you have to be on your mark, and you have to deliver, or Chuck will let you know you haven't.
And see, that's the thing I enjoy about it is the simple fact that, like you're saying, for example, I could imagine doing a night of like Rocky Horror. Like I said, that takes you a little out of your comfort zone, and because this is music that was like in the in the 60s, a lot of people may not have even heard it, or Rocky Horror is one of those things that it has a huge cult following. I mean, I remember being from Long Beach, California here, we used to have a theater, but every Friday we used to put on the Rocky Horror thing, and they'd always air it after midnight, and people would go in and get in their costumes.
Yeah.
It was just a crazy thing, and the funny thing is people forget, like when they think of Meatloaf, they think of Bat Out of Hell, but Rocky Horror, that's really where he got his start, and that predates.
Yeah, it absolutely is. See, for people to, obviously they saw the videos, but to see him more in a acting role, and he was a big name then musically. But they gave him a pivotal but very small part in that film. But I'm telling you, I can't say enough of how Paulie he just nails Tim Curry's part, Frankfurter, just incredible. And that whole cast, and it's just bizarre because you really can't see it. Sean McNabb from Lynch Mob was the narrator at the beginning, and he does it all the way through, and he just did it just seamlessly. But if you can see all of the cacophony of people upstairs who, we're all getting in place, and we have to, hit our marks as we go through, and everybody's got to get the hell off stage as we're coming on, and we don't rehearse this. That's the one thing about the jam, you meet these amazing people like Walter Eno, who's just an amazing player, and you go, the first time for me, meeting him was being on stage.
Wow, how cool is that?
And boom, we go, and so, that's when you find out, how much of your on-the-spot confidence is.
Yeah, but it's all that really is what rock and roll is all about, if you will.
It is, and that's what it brings it all the way back to.
And the other thing about it to me is like you're saying, like how Chuck Wright kind of demands that the performers are kind of on top of their game. But the other cool thing about that is, okay, so you got two notch of players there. You got these guys like Chuck and other guys we mentioned, Matt Starr, and even like Sean McNabb. These are like well seasoned musicians. They've been doing it for years. These are that's the reason a lot of these fans are going to those events every week to see these players that like you said, like Sean, he plays with Lynch Mob, he's played with Doc and Quiet Riot, and so on, and then you get musicians like you who people maybe they seen the ad on the Facebook page. Oh, who's this? Okay, this is an up and coming guy, and so you're getting both seasoned musicians and guys like you that are just coming up, which gives you not an opportunity to only play the jam and get your name out there and your band out there, but you're playing with seasoned musicians that you might not otherwise get the opportunity to play with. And then when you guys are doing something like Rocky Horror, it doesn't matter if you're Sean McNabb or Chuck Wright or Mick Scott. The fact that you guys can kind of just jam these tunes out and you're out of your comfort zone of what you typically play, that also shines a light on the level of musicianship of everybody there.
And it's funny because I think it's just the way it's a whole team of people that put that together. But Paulie had called me. They did a night. It was dedicated to Alice Cooper, and he said, to me, my brother had all the Alice Cooper albums. My older brother. I was vicariously a fan through my brother, but I guess it's just my persona on stage that Paulie was saying. I want you to do the Alice Cooper night, and what I want you to do is $1 Billion Babies. And he wanted me to do with Chuck, who was in Alice Cooper. With Eric Dover, who was in Alice Cooper. And we did $1 Billion Babies, which is it was Alice Cooper and Donovan. If you remember that folk singer Donovan.
Wow.
It was like a duet, So we did that whole duet, and I was just like tripping because I remembered the song, but I never really knew the words. But that song was so confusing to me because I always noticed, even as a kid, the voice would fluctuate, it would change, and I had no idea until Paulie was on the phone with me that he said it was a duet. So I am doing it with Eric, and Eric was doing Donovan's part because that's what he did on stage.
Wow! You're educating me. You're educating me here, man, because I'm a huge Alice fan, and I never even had any clue about that. I just thought that was Alice's.
I didn't know about it either. Until Paulie told me, there's actually an interview on YouTube of Donovan, and Donovan's like English guy, tea and crumpet type of guy, and he's like. Alice Cooper, you think about it, he's like, if he was going to do a duet, he would find somebody who was so anti-Alice.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a funny story about that. I got an Alice Cooper box set, and he put out on this box set like some of his rare stuff and a lot of stuff people never even released. People never even, and he had like a track that he did with the Bee Gees and stuff.
Is that right? But you have to look at it. Like, he was always trying to stick in the face of everyone. When he did the Muppets, that I remember that.
Controversy,
scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, and it's funny because
scary about it. It's just I think the Muppets scared me more than Alice Cooper.
And it's funny because Alice Cooper is one of these guys. I mean, I just love like seeing Alice Cooper in concert. It's the ultimate rock show. And the thing is, he's always, like you're talking about, got top-notch players in his band. And see, Alice Cooper is one of those performers where, like you're saying, a lot of people, like, for example, to go to, say, to a jam night and see something like that, I bet they've heard, like, probably 10, 20 Alice Cooper songs in their lifetime, and they may be like, oh, that's an Alice Cooper song? Oh, I've heard that song on the radio. I didn't know he did that, or I didn't know who did that.
Exactly.
And that's the great thing about the jam night. You guys are kind of educating people on, kind of the history of music. And the thing, you can have a lot of respect for a guy like Alice. I mean, he's almost... I think he's like close to 70 or 75 years old. He's still out there doing it. He's still out there.
He's doing it.
Putting new music.
And people are still, trying to emulate him in any way they can. And every time they even try, they get burned because you just can't. It's just the way it is. And then again, just going back one more time to Ultimate Jam, it's a show that happens every week, but it's a show that will only happen once in a lifetime every week because it's never the same set, it's never the same players, it's never the same situation. It's a whole different theme every time. So, you can sit there, even if you decide that there's people go, I'm not a fan. We did Thin Lizzy, my band Villains In Vogue. We opened up the show. This is probably, maybe a month ago. We opened up the show, and it was a night to Thin Lizzy.
Wow.
And we did Cold Sweat during the jam. And to me, there were people that I know that were they came there and said, I just want to be part of this. Even if you weren't a Thin Lizzy fan, because again, it will only happen one time. Where if you go see a band, you know the songs. Here you know the songs, but it's the same. It's a standard set list that that they'll be playing next week or tomorrow night or whenever. But this happens one time, and then they rip up the script.
And Thin Lizzy is Thin Lizzy is another one of those bands, kind of like Alice Cooper, that they've been kind of performing for so many years that like there are probably some people that when they think of Thin Lizzy, they think of The Boys Are Back in Town, or they think that's the only song they've ever did, or like Whiskey in the Jar. And then other people think, oh, I've heard that song on the radio. Oh, that's Thin Lizzy. And then there are other people who have no idea, because Phil Lynott, he died like in 1986. He's been dead for several years now. Oh, Phil Lynott's the lead singer in Thin Lizzy. I thought it was Ricky Warwick or John Sykes.
Yeah, exactly, huh?
Yeah, and that's the thing about like Alice Cooper, like. You and me, like, may have been around, like, for his classic stuff, like, in the 70s and that. But there's some fans out there that the only thing they know of Alice Cooper is, like, the MTV stuff, Trash and Poison and all that. And they have no idea about what came before. And so that's, the great thing about an event like Ultimate Jam Night. And, I always loved bands like that could jam it out. A great example of that is Deep Purple. I mean, especially back in the day when they had Ritchie Blackmore and John Lord. That was the ultimate jam band. I mean, they would jam a song out for like 30, like one song for like 30 minutes or 35 minutes.
Yeah. Somebody's string had to break.
Yeah.
For them to stop.
And that was a great example of, if I want to listen to the record, I'll just stay home. But, you go see a band like that or Kiss or even Whitesnake or Motley Crue that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. These are bands that entertain you. You don't leave... You don't leave seeing one of those bands live unsatisfied.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I have this ideology that I say people go to rock shows and they listen with their eyes.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you don't sit. If you want to listen to the album, by all means, go home and sit up and listen, because it will be exactly the same as we know every single time. But there's a danger and a chance of buffoonery and a chance of mishap when you go to see a live show, when people want to go out and entertain you. And that's what I loved about Motley Crue, is because maybe they're playing the same set every night, but it wasn't the same show every night. I try to be that. I try with Villains In Vogue. I try to do a different show every night. That anytime that in between our songs, nobody in the band knows what I'm going to say, because I know that because I don't know what I'm going to say. And every night it's different that way. And there's a sense of realness to it.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, how you guys doing tonight? Let me hear you scream.
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing. That's why I love to go see a band like Motley Crue, or even a lot of these tribute bands. People think, they're just covering other people's music. But what I love about it is, in both cases, it's rock and roll theater to me. And even going to see a Motley Crue concert back in the day, seeing Nikki Sixx all made up and everything, and lighting his bass on fire, and that's just that is something that's not you're typically going to see. See, that's why I much rather see something like that than just five guys in their jeans and t-shirts. I mean, okay, there's a certain audience for that, but it's I'd much rather be entertained, if you know what I mean. I mean, that's the thing.
Absolutely do.
I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these bands that I grew up on that I really loved, they had to have really like three key ingredients. They had to have a song. Like Motley Crue is a perfect example of that. Motley Crue was not a popular band. They did not last for 35 years just because they looked cool. I mean, they had cool. Yeah. They had memorable songs. They had great hooks, and that you could really get into. They were well-written songs. So you have to have the looks. You have to have a certain image. But you're not just gonna be successful just because you look cool. You got to have a little more to go with it. So if you give a great rock show, people are going to continue to support the band and follow them.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Now getting back to Ultimate Jam Night, the Motley Crue one that you just took part in last week. Now you said the first song that you did was Helter Skelter. Now that's
No, the first one I did was Smoking in the Boys' Room.
Smoking in the Boys' Room.
We did two back to back, and then we did Helter Skelter.
Now let me ask you, in regards to Smoking in the Boys' Room, how big of a fan are you of that song, or when you first heard it? As a fan growing up.
As a child of the 70s, I remember, and
80s.
Obviously a child who had been dropped on his head, because I can't remember the band that did it originally. Was it Brownsville
Station, and that's kind of the...
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Wasn't dropped on my head that hard.
Yeah.
I remember that song and loving that song. I remember for some reason being in school. My teacher must have just been a major fan, because when we were having art class, he played this K-Tel album that had all those really cool songs, and that was on. And so I knew that from then. And when I first heard Motley Crue do it, the thing that got me was just the bounce of the drums that sold me. Other than that, I would have went, well, why are you redoing this? And of course, the video was awesome. It had all the bells and whistles. And so to me, it was totally acceptable. I thought it was cool. And people were saying, well, this is going to be the kiss of death for Motley Crue. And maybe in certain ways it was, because they kind of looked in on each other and went, you know, what have we done? But I think any band who gets what they wanted then turns in on each other and says, is this what we wanted? Because it's never going to be the way you want it. I mean, they got massive because of Shout at the Devil, but they didn't go mainstream until they hit that one. Yeah, you
know, funny thing about that is I actually have the opposite experience, which is this, because of my age at the time. Like a lot of Motley Crue fans at that time, I heard that song when the album was released back in 1985, thinking it was a Motley Crue song. You know, and so like many Motley Crue fans, I had no idea, because I didn't. Back in the day, I didn't read the liner notes, and I read the liner notes, but I didn't necessarily read the who wrote the song. And so I thought it was a Nikki Sixx tune or whatever, and a Motley Crue tune, and years later I found out no, actually it's a cover they did by this other band, and again the original they kind of stayed true to the original format, but the funny thing is I think.
The production of what it was what changed it. But if you think about it, if you were to put Smoking in the Boys' Room on Shout at the Devil, it would have derailed Shout at the Devil. Well, actually, Shout at the Devil would have devoured Smoking in the Boys' Room, because it had no place. But Theater of Pain, it totally had placement. Yeah. And I think, as much as I give credit to the band about it, I'm sure it had a lot to do with their production side. There are people saying, this might slide perfectly in with what you're doing. It's just between that and Helter Skelter, I thought they did an amazing job on Helter Skelter. And again, I think it always goes back to Tommy Lee. I just the way he plays. I think Mick Mars did a nasty, awesome job on the guitar playing, and I think Vince Neil did a great job on the vocal of it.
Yeah, and getting back to Smoking in the Boys' Room for a minute, I think the reason they did that too is because Mick Mars is he's a big all-time blues fan, and I think he might have picked that for that reason. And but it's kind of funny now. Smoking. This is another point I was going to make about that album. The two big hits off Theater of Pain were obviously Smoking in the Boys' Room and Home Sweet Home. And the funny thing is, while they included Home Sweet Home on the Dirt soundtrack, Smoking in the Boys' Room they did not include. And I'm not sure what the reason for that now, but also if you look at the Theater of Pain album, that is the one album I kind of feel, except for those two tracks, there's maybe one or two other tracks I like, but I think that's the one album that really hasn't stood the test of time, you know what I mean? I mean, kind of sounds dated, and I think maybe because Nicky was so into his heroin addiction, I don't think his writing was really up to snuff.
Well, I really think the look superseded the music at that point, and that's where it kind of started to jump the shark. You know, I mean, at Shout at the Devil, the look, the symmetry of the look and the sound were both married really well. But then, you even see in the movie The Dirt, which, that they were looking at each other and going, well, this is a throwaway album, except for I'm paraphrasing. Except for Smoking in the Boys' Room. Of course, it made them a ton more money. But, And of
course, as you saw in the movie, that was a time in the band's career, not only was that album really, I mean, the album did pretty well, but like I said, it hasn't really stood the test of time. But that was also a time in the band's career where they really weren't getting along. That was around the time, Vince got in the DUI accident, and he killed the drummer from Hanoi Rocks, and the other guys were kind of like not talking to him, and they weren't getting along. and he was trying to stay away from other guys because they were doing drugs in front of him and drinking, and
of course.
And so that all played a role in that. And the only other song I really liked off that album was the first track, City Boy Blues, and it's a pretty cool little blues track. But the thing is, that was one of those tunes that I got to say, as much as I love it, I kind of forgot about it until I recently came across it again on YouTube. So it's kind of interesting that that's the one album that really hasn't stood the test of time. And it's kind of funny because Nikki Sixx, I mean, he's such a gifted songwriter, and I also think there's a certain brilliance to the way the guy markets the band. Kind of what you're saying about Shout at the Devil. I've heard him talk over the years, like in interviews and stuff, where he said, a lot of that image was kind of, it was all planned in the sense that, like, he said, we accidentally, with Shout at the Devil, we accidentally crawled into the world of heavy metal. And then at the same time, so, and he said, the look, we had all this blood and black and everything, got dark, and it got people talking about the band, and so with Shout at the Devil, you think, okay, this is what Motley Crue is now, and like a couple of years later with Theater of Pain, they give kind of the people the middle finger, but told, okay, that's what you thought Motley Crue is. This is we're glam now, man. We're not sticking with Shout at the Devil. We're going a totally different direction.
Well, that's when you have that kind of an image out of the gate, if you are not willing to morph and evolve into the next stage, whichever that might be, then you're kind of locked into a cell or a time, a time warp or whatever, because that's all you're going to be. I look, who's to guess about anything? But, I look at, something like Twisted Sister, an amazing band, not one of my favorites, in that side of it, but they never really morphed their look, and this is my personal opinion. And they never until they, I think, they took off all the, that makeup. It was a little past the prime of doing it. It can also, you can't really second guess it, because I think all that music at that time was starting to fall out of favor. And that's what did it. And it's so relevant to the person you're talking to, because you mentioned how Theater of Pain didn't stand the test of time, but there's so many people who were experiencing that when maybe that was to them their first heavy album.
I hear you.
And they sit there and go, they remember, that was the first album they bought, or that was the first concert they saw. Theater of Pain was the first concert they saw. So to them, they just go, nothing's going to compare to it. Well, in their eyes, nothing will, because their eyes are the only ones they're using,
Yeah, it's so funny, like, growing up and listening to the band and being a fan, and then years later you realize stuff like, I didn't realize at the time, like when Theater of Pain came out, like if you look at like the costumes and stuff that Nikki was wearing, and he's talking about what a huge Steven Tyler fan he is, and then you look back at some of those old photos, I mean, he's wearing like...
he was Steven Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, his hair, and then he's wearing like, there's a striped jumpsuit that he used to wear back at that time. It looked like
it was this close. I don't think there's ever been clothing plagiarism before. I think that was...
and it's funny because, again, we didn't see it at the time, but all these years later, knowing he's a Steven Tyler fan, and it's like, man, how did I not recognize that? And I guess...
Oh, wow, that's bizarre, because as soon as I saw him in that, I was going, Joe Perry's going to go up. Steven Tyler won't do it. Joe Perry go and punch Nikki Sixx in the face.
And it's funny, and I guess part of the reason is because back in the day, like you were saying, a guy like Nikki Sixx, I mean, his hair was so high, and and the makeup was so out there, and I think everybody was just paying attention to the way the guy looked, not necessarily what he was wearing. But it's kind of fun to go back and look at those photos, from back in the day. And you're mentioning Twisted Sister. That's another band that I loved growing up. But I agree with a lot of what you're saying about Twisted. But the funny thing about Twisted Sister, okay, they're one album most people remember them from. It had We're Not Gonna Take It, I Wanna Rock. That was a Stay Hungry album from 1984. And now the funny story, that kind of remains their all-time best-selling album. But I think now, since they got back together, they did, if you can imagine this, they one year released a Christmas album. and that.
Oh yeah.
And I guess I don't know if that surpassed Stay Hungry, but that's kind of went on to become what they're known for now. Since they got back together, is putting out a Christmas album. People just, I don't not know, for whatever reason, went out and that was a big hit with the Twisted fans. I don't quite know why, but that's kind of funny,
Well, and again, and we'll probably just keep going back to the Ultimate Jam the whole time, but Dee's son, Jesse Snyder, is an amazing singer and has a band. He's one of the regulars on Ultimate Jam night, and Dee has played at the Ultimate Jam maybe 2 years ago, and they were on stage together.
Yeah.
So I sit there and go, it's interesting how we're talking about these bands of the past and how relative they still are. Here's Jesse, picking up the torch,
like the second generation.
Still kicking ass, but still doing it different, doing it in his way. And
it's kind of funny talking about Twisted for a minute because the funny thing is, like, Dee Snider's kind of had a struggling solo career up until recently. Now, if you look at his career and the music he's put out over the years, like he had a band, Widowmaker. For the most part, the Twisted Sister stuff really does stand up. And when people think of Dee Snider, they think of Twisted Sister. And the funny thing is, back in the day, I always thought that Dee Snider was like Nikki Sixx, a great songwriter. I mean, that's why he was the only guy that really wrote the songs in those band. That band, nobody else is credited with any of the writing. And it was kind of sad because, like, those Widowmaker albums and the later stuff he put out wasn't really selling. It's kind of sad that this guy from Hatebreed, he was saying, "Hey, Dee, you got to put out an album. You got to put out." And the last thing he did, this solo album for the love of metal, he had this guy from Hatebreed like write all the tunes for him. And Dee's like, I'm not going to bother writing any tunes because I was once a leader back in the day. I used to write great songs, but there got a point where I just my writing wasn't up to snuff, and I wish he'd kind of at least give himself a chance. But I will say that last solo album we put out, I think that's the best piece of solo work he's released to date.
Well, that is cool. I mean, that's, to me, that's you always want to, you're only as good as your last performance. You always say. So I find that just true.
Yeah.
And it's that, to me, it works both ways for the same reason. I mean, if I had a really shit show, I need to get out there and redeem myself. But if I had a really good show, then that carries me my confidence level to the next one. And that's the same with recording too. If you can stand behind what you just recorded, that gets you through the writing process, as arduous as that is, and then of course the recording process, and then waiting to get the thing marketed and then get it out. You need something to turn back. Can imagine how horrifying it is when you release a shit show of an album, and you've got to get another album out as quick as you can. Apologize for the last one.
It's kind of sad, but I'm glad that he had a chance to have a little bit of a comeback. And I guess he's currently working on a new album now. For an Ultimate Jam night, that would be a cool thing. Somebody suggests like a night of like a Dee Snider. I mean, you could have Widowmaker, you could have Twisted Sister solo stuff, and the solo stuff is kind of fun because I mean, he's, for example, because he was so influenced by Alice Cooper. I know they even did it. There's a track on the Twisted Sister album come out and play. I think it's called "Be Cruel to Your School." I don't know if you've ever seen the video, but
I remember. I don't remember the video, but I remember the song.
It's with him, kind of a duet with Alice and Dee, and they trade off on lead vocals. It's pretty cool, and I just found out, with the recent passing of Luke Perry, they were saying that Luke Perry also appears in the video, like is one of the school students in the video. It's kind of I never knew that, so that's kind of
like 90210.
Yeah, and so that's cool. Now getting back to Helter Skelter, I always love that song, and I think of all the songs Motley Crue's ever covered, that's probably the ultimate cover they've done, because I'll tell you why. Like a lot of people, kind of like what I was saying with Smoking in the Boys Room, they think of Helter Skelter as a Motley Crue song. They have no idea that it's a Beatles tune, because a lot of people, when they think of the Beatles did a little bit of everything, but a lot of their stuff was pop candy, all over the radio. It's like pop stuff, and I dare say Helter Skelter is probably the heaviest thing the Beatles ever did.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Well, you have to think about it. If it wasn't for what took place afterwards with Marilyn Manson, I mean, it kind of built a darkness behind every lyric. If you look at that, it's the whole horrible situation with Marilyn Manson. Charles Manson. Look at me.
Yeah.
If that hadn't occurred, you probably wouldn't be sitting there looking at the lyrics as dark and double entendre as you will, the way it is. It's a brooding song. Crew made it 10 times more brooding.
Yeah, I mean, they really.
It's so easy to redo something. A great idea is a great idea, no matter. And you can just bend it to the left or bend it to the right, and it's still going to be cool.
Yeah, and they really Motleyized it, if you know what I mean. And that's a great thing about what they were able to accomplish. Now, how much fun of a song was that for you to perform the other night?
How much what?
How much did you enjoy as far as getting to perform Helter Skelter? That must have been
I loved it. The players that I had that night were just perfect for it.
Wow.
And Matt Starr was playing drums, and of course he's just a thunder hitter. And so when we just boom, 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 those people knew right away. And so arms were up. If you see any of that video,
okay, I should check that out.
It's wall to wall people, and you just feel that song.
Okay, Mick. Mick, I gotta tell you,
good.
I gotta tell you, Mick, I really enjoyed getting to know you. This turned out to be a pretty great interview. Now, let's talk a little bit about your band, Villains In Vogue, because again, I've never heard of a band before. So first, I want to ask you: do you guys have a CD out or anything that people can check out or purchase, or is that something you're working on?
First, it's Villains In Vogue.
Villains In Vogue. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah. Villains In Vogue.
Actually, we've got two songs in the can right now that we've just finished recording, and we have one lyric video that's out, and there's going to be May 1st. We're putting the second song out, and on our website at villainsinvogue.com, we have a bunch of demos of what we do live on there. And YouTube's got a bunch of our lunacy on their video website.
Now, let me ask you, in regards to like a CD and that, because a lot of people, let's be honest, are not buying music or CDs like they used to. But so are you guys kind of got the modern model? As far as, we'll just put our stuff online for people to check out, or do you think when you get enough tunes that you want to put out a CD for the fans and that?
At this point, and this is what I love about Villains, is that we're doing right now every single day what just feels right. The game plan is to keep working. But we're not sitting there going, okay, we need to get this album done.
Great,
putting it together.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, in a band called Anna Black, I was for 13 years. This was Villains and Anna Black were the only bands that I've been in that I just feel a brotherhood, and that every day it doesn't seem like we're getting together and let's go over the music. Okay, I'll see you again next week. I appreciate and love the time that I am with these guys, and to me that means a lot. So as far as I'm concerned, we discuss strategy, and to me it's keeping busy, keeping writing, keeping recording, and when the recording is done, when we sit there and turn back around and go, okay, I think we have something here.
Yes, that's cool.
Then we'll go. I mean, we have a fair amount of songs that we keep bouncing and changing up in the set, but to me, I've been in bands where it was mostly, actually, I was in a band called Seaspock Hill that was all recording, and we didn't play live.
Wow.
And it killed me not to play live. To me, that's where I can sink my teeth into what I do. And so I need that, and so that's what Villains is. It's all about getting out. We play around a lot, and to me that people see it.
Do you guys primarily play like in the LA, Hollywood area, or do you play all over?
Yeah, we've only been together for a year and a half.
Oh, okay, that was my next question. Okay, wow.
Yeah, so we've been, again, thanks to Ultimate Jam, we've been there twice with Villains. We've been Lucky Strike. It does same thing, maybe not as good as Ultimate Jam. We play, the Whiskey. We play out in the Valley. We play. First time is coming up in a couple of weeks at in Hermosa Beach.
Oh, cool.
At
That's
St. Rock. So we're starting to push it out. But to me, what I wanted to do is I wanted to, like I just say, sink our teeth into L.A. I want to see, because if it works here, this is a hard, very short attention span city, and I mean that in the best way.
You're right.
They see so much.
You're right in the sense that a lot of these guys that made it on the LA scene, a lot of them are moving to Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is a huge musical city. I mean, they call Nashville Music City, but they also, I think, call that to Las Vegas. But a lot of the 80s stars are moving to Las Vegas. They do these residencies, and music's a big thing over there, especially hard rock and metal acts now. And I think the other thing with Vegas that has going for it is, besides the location and everything, and you got all the places to play right there. Let me ask you, have you ever had to deal with pay to play? Because that's one thing that I think limits a lot of the bands here in Hollywood area.
No, I'll tell you what, I've seen it close at hand, and I've never been part of it. When Anna Black came here, pay to play was really just starting to pick up, and we were lucky enough to avoid it completely. What we did is got management right away, and we sidetracked that whole thing. But I wouldn't do it even. And I've had the opportunity to play with some pretty big bands, and I played with Lemmy when he did
how cool
Head Hats, and they had places that were asking, not asking, they're demanding, well, if you want this direct support slot, it's going to cost you money. And I'm like going, guess what? Give it to the guy next door then.
Yeah, I mean, that's why even today a lot of bands, what they do is they'll tell people, hey, if you want to come to our next show, we got a ton of tickets. Just tell us how many tickets you want. And the basic idea is, like you said, they got to guarantee, get rid of all these tickets, guarantee that you can pack the house, and then it doesn't matter if you're any good, but if you can pack the house, then maybe we'll allow you to come back here. So
if you can pack the house, you wouldn't go back to that promoter. Like, I don't want to. The one thing about pay to play, because I can see it from the side of the promoter, I can see it of the booking agent. It's the only other thing that I can't stand a greedy promoter. I can't stand a lazy band. I can't stand a band that sits there and thinks, the fact that I'm up on stage should be entertaining enough for all you. Because that's what dulls it dirties up the pool. Because you need, if you're going to go perform on stage, you should be wanting to give absolutely everything that you have. It should hurt by the time you get off stage.
And the thing, like you
did your job wrong.
The thing is, with the promoters, I think they're just trying to get. They want to make more money than what the bands are making, and it's kind of sad because you wouldn't have any people coming to your club if it wasn't for the bands, playing there. And I think it should at least be like a 50-50 split, at the very least, because the band is providing the. Entertainment, and back in the days, like in the 80s heydays, and even I think in the 70s, you had promoters down there that they would really promote the hell out of their shows. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example.
Exactly. That's why that's all changed. Like, believe me, I do the business for the Villains, and if a promoter has the balls to ask me, so how's your draw? I would just go, how is yours? It's your club. It's not my house. I'm not throwing the party. my friends are going to come to the party, but I don't subject myself to that. I know what is what about that.
Oh, cool. I'm glad to hear that.
The play thing, as long as there's bands that are willing to do that, it really doesn't matter what the bands that aren't willing to do.
Yeah, I hear you.
Do.
Yeah, and I'll give you a perfect example of a great concert promoter. There's this singer named Keith St. John. He used to sing for Ronnie Montrose, and for the last 5 years he's been putting on this great Ronnie Montrose Remembered show. He performed at the show, of course, because he was friends with Ronnie and played with him. This is something special to the guy's heart, and he's been doing it like for the last 5 years, or so, since Ronnie died, and so he organizes it. He gets hold of all the players that are going to take part, and if you look at his Facebook page every year around the time the show's getting ready to go on sale in that, I mean, he's got all kinds of ads for who's going to perform at the show.
Right.
And to me, that's just a great promoter. I mean, he's taking part in it. So it's very important for him.
You absolutely have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a graphic artist, so I power promote our shows, and with a name like Villains In Vogue, you can make flyers that you can use the word villains and go for days.
Talking about marketing, my friend, I mean, that's a great. When I came across your Facebook page last week, I thought, man, before I even went on the band's official Facebook page or anything, I thought, man, what a cool name. I mean, just the name gets your attention, and then when you look at the photos of you guys, it's like, man, that is such a fitting name. I could see that.
Yeah, it really shows that you're going to see a show.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have. I've said right from the beginning is that we would have to live up to that name.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, then people aren't going to come.
I look at some of the photos of Ben, and I think like, okay, these guys could have been in a band like LA Guns or something, real dark, and all the guys got black hair and everything. And I could just, how did you come up with that name? Again, it's just a very fitting name, but genius.
Well, our guitar player, Justin Zane, he came up with it. And actually, when we first started talking, he was in a different band than I was, and we played the same night, the same show. And we said, if our respective situations ever go south, let's keep in touch, and we did, and we kept knocking that name around, and it eventually, to me, I was almost reluctant about it because I was sitting there going, God damn, that's going to be a hard name to live up to.
Yeah.
But I think what hit me the most is that it was so dead on to what Justin and I wanted to do. And then we brought in Jeffrey Shapiro, who's our drummer, and just a fucking amazing performer, amazing clown. I guess he plays drums.
Yeah.
And he is exactly what this is. And then our bass player, Brian Kimes, it came in and just filled in exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean,
so I love it where we're at.
I mean, it's kind of like I read years ago in an interview that Tracy Guns did, the guitar player from LA Guns. He was talking about the fact that, the band that he was in with Axl Rose, like pre-LA Guns, I think it was called Hollywood Rose, and and the two bands splintered, and he formed LA Guns, and the other guy formed Guns N' Roses. That's why you got Guns N' Roses in the name there. And the funny thing about it is, Guns N' Roses became a bigger band, but like Tracy said, we put out more albums. He goes, they may be more popular, but he goes, I want to be the little black dot that everybody thinks of and remembers. And Guns N' Roses may become bigger, but we're still here doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it kind of takes me back to Alice Cooper too, because I've heard for years Alice said, when he got the idea, to do the makeup thing and kind of do what he does up on stage, he's like, you know what? He goes, when I was getting my start, I decided there's too many rock heroes. I want to be the ultimate rock villain. So, I mean, talking about villains, Alice Cooper's like the original rock villain right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because he is he's so to anybody who's villainous, he's just endearing. You know, he scared so many people who weren't really scary people, but scary people just sit there and go, oh, he's one of us. And, you know, and that's what I like. I see the campiness him, and that's what he always tried to do. You know, he tried to bring, you know, Broadway and vaudeville and all that shtick.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's from what I understand, he's totally got no ego for all the success he's had. I mean, for a while, you know, his career kind of went down, but he's still doing it. It came back up, and he's more popular than ever. And a lot of the guys that he plays with say, you know what, Alice really does not have an ego. He has no problems. Like some of the guys in his band, they have solo projects that they do on the side. I mean, his guitar player, this chick Nina Strauss, she just put out a cool little shred album. He allows these guys to do that and doesn't have a problem with it, and that's cool, you know, because when people buy Nina Strauss album, they're going to think, oh, that's the guitar player from Alice Cooper's band, you know, and so that's a cool thing. I was kind of now Mick, I wanted to ask you now talking a little bit about the Dirt movie. What was your favorite part of a movie?
You know, my favorite part actually is weird. It wasn't even actually a part. I think. To me, it was the treatment of the movie. Yeah. What I liked is there is every so often as they refer to it, as breaking through the fourth wall. Where you know, especially the guy playing Mick Mars, who I loved how the guy, because he's the baddest ass guy from Game of Thrones, and he you know, he would just all of a sudden look at the camera and go, this never really happened. But, you know, they just show a part of the scene. I've only seen it once. But I like that. You know,
that was pretty cool. And I mean, even the scene with Mick where the band is first getting together, and then, you know, and originally they had they were going to have two guitar players, but then Nicky and Mick, they kind of realized the other guy, he was no good, and Mick really had the balls to say, "Hey, dude, get lost. You're not in this band."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you know, the timeline. I love the movie. I'm glad we got it. But the timeline was kind of really all over the place. For example, if you look at the movie, okay, you would swear that Heather Locklear was the love of Tommy Lee's life. Maybe she was at one point, but no mention of Pamela Anderson. While they do cover Vince is out of the band, no mention that Tommy Lee had ever been out of the band, and you know, during the main time they were trying to concentrate throughout the movie was I guess most of the 80s, and a lot of people commented online, well Vince's daughter wasn't even alive in the 80s, but I guess, you know, for the fact that that's kind of a main thing that happened in the guy's life, you want to kind of include it in the movie, you know?
Well, to me, you know, I kind of disagree. I'm like, if you're covering his obituary or you know, doing his eulogy at his funeral, then you might want to hit all those parts. But you sit there and go, okay, how many breakups do you want to include in one movie? Yeah. Because then it's going to be, you know, if you included every episode of drug use that the band used, it'd be nauseous.
Yeah, I mean they covered
and anything else. You know, to me, it's all symbolic. You know, just, you know, Vince Neil's, you know, the death of his child. When you look at that, you can look at that as a whole and look at all the sadness in his life
because
across the board. You don't have to sit there and think, you know, of all the tragedy he had, but it brings back around that this guy was human.
Yeah.
You know, I sit there and it pisses me off. I'll just outwardly say it. You know, the guy is real heavy now. He's still going out and he's doing it. And I just sit there and people are knocking him for that. And I just say, you know, fuck you to people who do that to people, because he's overweight and all that shit. But when I see him, I see the pain that he's gone through. And you know, and to me, you know, you can knock somebody all you want, and then one day he's not here anymore, and then you go, oh yeah, he was such an awesome guy. Well, I remember when you were just being a douchebag about the guy.
There you go. And the funny thing is,
there's no time in my life for, you know, picking at people's weaknesses when they've accomplished 10 times more than you have.
Exactly. You know, it's funny we say that, because I was interviewing somebody just last night and having a similar conversation about people go online, and he's got people that really are strong fans and they support him, and then there are other people that are always kind of trashing him, and he's saying like I can't believe some of the things people will go online and say, but like he says, I don't really care about this. I just care about the ones that support me, and that's really what it's all about. And that's what I told him kind of. I said, well, you know what? I said, hey, dude, let me tell you something. All these people knocking you, even if you're just a little footnote in the in the hard rock industry, that you've accomplished 10 times more than they have, and I think that is so true. Now I want to talk a little bit about your when we're chatting today before we interview Mick online. You were telling me something about, and it's funny because you're in a band called Anna Black. I can't really think of a song, but I remember hearing about. Was this around the '90s when Anna Black was really kind of coming out?
Anna Black, actually, if we're all Canadians, we got together. I think it was like '85, and we played across.
Okay, but I remember hearing that name back in the day, but it's one of, like we were talking earlier about. I've heard the name, but when I get off the phone with you, I'm going to go online and kind of research a band because I'll probably say, oh, that's the band,
on there.
Yeah.
But we did our stuff in Canada. We toured across Canada 2 times, and then we decided to come down here, and we dragged down like 4 roadies with us, and we slept. We had a 66-seat school bus that ran on propane.
Wow.
That we bought in Ontario, Canada, and brought it down here and parked it. Our first 2 shows were at Gazzari's.
Oh, that's no longer here. Well, I remember back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, this was we came here in '91, I believe.
Wow. Well, now let me ask you. Speaking of Gazzari's, did you guys ever get like any ads? Do you remember BAM magazine back in the day?
Oh yeah, we were. We had an ad, a write-up in BAM, but we were mostly in was Rock City News, and back then Hollywood Rocks came out, which was the first kind of color rag that was doing it. Yeah. We were the first band on the cover for that, and we came down here, a band that played 7 nights a week for the past 4 months on that tour, and our management sent us down here. We wanted to be down here. We knew
that's where Action was at the time. Yeah.
And so when we came down, we just decided to stay down.
And now let me ask you, because the Sunset Strip, that was where it was happening back in the day. I mean, compared to Canada, where you guys were from, I mean, was it kind of a culture shock, or what was it like first time you hit that Hollywood Strip and seen all the clubs back in the day?
Well, with Anna Black, it was like we were the culture shock. And we never took it. These are 5 guys who were hockey players and musicians. So there was a goon mentality that we had. That if it's the old adage: if you fight one of us, you fight all of us, because we were brothers. And so, but we were a playing machine. We had. I must have had in 3 months. I must have had maybe 9 days off. Yeah. We were just constant. We had to, because the only way we could get to the next gig was if we played out. We'd have to play 2 weeks to get enough money. If a place said, "Well, I can have you 1 week," we go, "Oh my God, our next drive is so far. Now we got to get 2 weeks in here to get enough money to get to the next place." And that's how we lived, and that's what I loved about Anna Black, is it was that real. We were real through necessity. We had no other option. Yeah. So when we came down here, and we were like Mike Tyson and fighting Emmanuel Lewis, it's some little guy, because these bands, as good as they were, they would play once a month. Or maybe once every 2 months, and what they spend, and I'm not shading any of them because they were great bands, but we were literally hungry, fighting machines, and we came down and we just did everything we could to
And now let me ask you: did Anna Black ever get to the level where, if you guys wanted to, would there, you think, be enough interest in? Would you ever consider doing a reunion, or do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts, that subject's come up a million times, and I have things called Mickisms, and one of them is I honor my past by allowing it to remain there.
Okay.
And that's I constantly get, I'd written probably 93% of the lyrics for all Anna Black songs, and believe me, we had written so many songs. And I go back to it. We had. Like, the drummer was an amazing drummer, but he's also an amazing singer, and he's an amazing songwriter.
Wow.
So him on his own, he would play off his brother Davey, who was a guitar player, and they would write. And then we had Jesse James on the other side, who was the best guitar player I've ever heard in my life, and was my best friend. And he brought so much to the table, along with Ricky.
Wow,
and so what we had done there couldn't be redone. We were together for 13 years, and that's like 3 lifetimes of most bands. Yeah. And when it did, we ran out of road. To me, I was it hit me just as hard as it would hit anybody after 13 years.
Yeah.
But to me, I said, you know what? These are, other than my actual brothers. Yeah. These were the brothers of my youth.
Wow.
I don't want to be that band that gets together, 30 years later and says, "Hey, how's your triple hernia?" "Oh, it's good. I'm on my 20th divorce."
Now,
I don't want to see those guys. How I see those guys is the way we were back then, and back then we were the shit.
Now,
all there is to it. I was the weakest link in that band, and I was made of titanium. Yeah, so it just shows you what those guys were.
Have you remained close with the guys as far as, like, do you guys stay in touch, or?
Unfortunately, we haven't. Everybody knows where everybody basically is, and everybody's back in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And but everybody's still doing what they want to do, and they're happy doing it. And it's to me, the last time I saw anybody from my high school was the last day I walked out of my high school. I'd rather go to solitary confinement in prison than go one night to my high school reunion.
I hear you.
To me, I'd rather punch my own face than to go to a high school reunion. So that's how I am about that. I know who I am. I know who Anna Black was. I know what we did. That's all that matters. And people constantly, I have independent record companies that constantly say, "Dude, I could give you a pretty sweet deal if you would release the catalog to us." And I'm like, the catalog belongs to Anna Black. But it being who I am in that, I would never vote to release something. Because to me, the people who have what they have of us back then,
those are the true fans.
They have something special.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, and there's chat rooms all over the place about Anna Black, and people are I'll swap you this demo for this demo. And they go, yeah. And to me, that's the coolest, most endearing thing, because that's what it's all about. These are people talking and switching stuff. You know why? Because it's not fodder out there for everybody. You can't just go down to a place and, get it on a rack of what was. Let's go to the what was album, section. I don't want to see that. And there's no company that could pay me for what Anna Black was worth.
That's
no
amazing.
one can pay anybody in Anna Black what we were worth.
That's amazing.
Supplement, so those conversations, it's weird because they're borderline insulting to me, because it's always this guy goes, "Hey, how you doing? You know what?" As he wiggles his tie, I got something. I got a great deal for you. You got a second? And I'm like,
what's in it for you? What's in it for you, buddy? How much more?
I appreciate that. It means a lot, but it's like I prefer the people who knew what we were, what we did. They know, and so let's just leave it at that. And unfortunately, if everybody thought that way, then there'd be no music history about stuff. But
that's interesting.
Let them do that.
That's
I don't want to. I don't need to be on a K-Tel best of.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way, but that's going to be my next question. Okay, so I guess that stuff kind of out of print. Okay, and it will remain out of print. That's kind of a cool thing, I guess, for people, because like you said, the ones that have it, well, they got something special.
Well, that's how I look, and it should be something special. You know, here, unfortunately, in LA, there's a resurgence of bands that were down on the Strip, and you know, they do reunions and stuff, and that's cool for them.
Yeah,
but don't turn to me and go, well, they're doing that. Why aren't you doing that? No, you know. Because I could just retort, well, I'm not doing that, so why are they doing that?
Yeah, I mean, not to drop any names here, but a perfect example of that is there's a band, Britney Fox. They put out 2 great albums, you know, back in the day, and after the first 2 albums, then they fired their lead singer, got a new guy, and the band now, from time to time, gets back together and they tour, but it's pretty much just the original bass player and a whole bunch of new hired guns. And okay, I guess certain people will go and want to hear those songs, but you know, it's I guess they do all right business. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. But it's like I don't really see a reason, like you said, for a Britney Fox reunion. Now Rat is one of those bands that they do have the songs. And the funny thing I thought was when you had the drummer fighting the other guys over. You know, control that band's name. He wasn't even an original member. He was the one guy in the band that didn't write any of the tunes. The other 4 guys in the band, they were like principal songwriters. So I think if anybody has a right to go out and tour as Rat, it's those other guys that wrote the tunes. I mean, he's suing the guys that wrote the tunes. That he's wanting to go out there and play the tunes they wrote. He's making a living off of their stuff. I just thought it was the funniest thing, and then I see everything you see about that stuff, and to me, you know, I don't even let it permeate my existence. I just go, you know, that if that works for you, then that is so cool. And, you know, and to me, I'm so good at walking through that stuff with blinders on, and I don't have to do anything that anybody else is doing. I love, to me, the word success, the definition of it to me is being able to continually do what you love. Each and every day, no matter what the hell it is. My 2 favorite things in the world, 3 favorite things, 4 favorite things, I guess I'll have to say. My wife, my black cats, I love to do graphic arts, and I love music. And if I have all those, and all those things are so tangible, I'm petting one of my cats right now. My wife's in the other room, I don't know, doing what she can be doing right now. And my music's always right beside me, and graphics. And so that's success to me. I wake up not hating myself. Every day I wake up and I go, you know what, something good's going to happen today. I get up early at 5 in the morning, I go down to the gym, and to me, that's success. Success has nothing to do with money. It's got nothing to do with prestige. I could give a shit if nobody knew what my name was. If they saw me at a show and I'm hanging off a balcony rafter and they go, oh, that's that guy that does that. Okay, you can call me that. You know, as long as if that's what you remember about me, then cool. I mean, it's kind of like
I don't need to keep grinding, you know, what I've done in the past up and, you know, try to make a buck out of it.
I mean,
that, you know.
To me, you're so right. To me, success is like, really, if you can go through each and every day of your life and you go to a job that you actually enjoy and it's not really like work, that's success to me, you know? And it's kind of like what you're saying. Robert Plant always gets people tell him, oh, put Led Zeppelin back together, just get a new drummer. He's like, Led Zeppelin, you know, that was what I did before. You know, let you guys can respect that, let it live in the past. Talk about what I'm doing now.
And, you know, and that's the hard thing, because if people don't accept what you're doing now, and it's not financially feasible, well, then you have a problem. But, you know, obviously Robert Plant's not exactly hurting for money.
So,
but I think, you know, what he is saying is, I've done everything
I want to do.
You know, Led Zeppelin is still alive as far as that goes. He doesn't have to bring Led Zeppelin back from the dead. You know, you can just turn a radio on, you go to X, and there they are. So, to me, when people say stuff like that, I'm sure it just rolls off his back.
Yeah.
I don't even think he could have much of a reply for it because, it's there.
Well, Mick, I'd like to really thank you for taking time out your busy schedule to talk to me. I really enjoyed getting to know you, and we'll have to do this again. So, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I really enjoyed my time with you too, Jason. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.